The result of the vote was shocking. I found, possibly it's my naivety, I remained hopeful that because we hadn't had disability discrimination in law, prenatal disability discrimination, and given the June 2020 vote, which had been a strong majority in support of the Severe Fetal Impairment Abortion Amendment Bill, I remained hopeful that this week the vote would continue along those lines and would allow the vote or the bill to proceed. So the results on Tuesday, whilst we suspected they would be tight, when the bill effectively was wrecked and stopped, it was shocking. Now, it was a very small majority, only two votes allowed it to be stopped, but it remains the case that it probably now won't and can't proceed. I think now there's a time for lament, a time to reflect on the arguments that were used against the Severe Fetal Impairment Bill, to listen to those voices, to discern some of the reasons why a few MLAs changed their position. MLAs who had previously supported the bill then voted against it on Tuesday, and others abstained. I think for some MLAs, there was a genuine desire to be compassionate to the voices of families and individuals who are living with disability, who are struggling and are in pain. We can never agree that the answer to suffering or pain post-birth is termination pre-birth, but we recognise for some there was a desire to be compassionate, even though we feel it was misplaced compassion. There are others who are pro-abortion activist MLAs, and for them all life pre-birth is devalued regardless of the circumstances. Our position at Both Lives Matter remains that all life has value pre-birth, regardless of whether it's beautiful, regardless of the sex of the baby, regardless of the health or ability, and particularly those babies that are disabled, who are the most vulnerable post-birth, who will be the most vulnerable. We believe they deserve even more protection and love and support. So whilst we lament along the biblical principle of lament, it's more than just being sad in a human sense and then moving on, hanging your head in shame, wringing your hands and then forgetting about it. I think the frustration and in the lament, you find hope. So we want to restore those lost protections. Still, the aim would be to restore those lost protections in time. But in the immediate term, we need to make abortion unthinkable as well as unnecessary. And we recognise that even if the law says that it's okay to terminate based on disability, it doesn't have to be chosen. If the demand isn't there, then it won't be taken up. So we need to meet the needs of individuals and families who are suffering, who are feeling pain, who are fearful of disability. Prenatal disability discrimination can't be separated from post-birth disability discrimination. And for the families involved, there are genuine fears. They receive a diagnosis and they don't potentially understand the implications, the impact of that on their family. The medical profession needs to address disability differently, to answer honestly the questions that are asked, but not to stereotype or stigmatize. Better supports and services and care provision needs to be put into place, and that's at a legislative level. But for society, I think we all need to reflect on the impact of Tuesday's vote. We need to think about the people that we know who are living with disability. We need to talk with them, hear their stories, understand their needs, and do what we can to support women who, on receiving a fetal diagnosis of disability, are fearful and may be tempted to terminate that life. We need to answer the fears and address the needs so that the demand isn't there. even if the legislation is. So at Both Lives Matter, we remain hopeful, and we believe that much can be done to address the discrimination in law, but to answer the cultural fears and stigmas and stereotypes, and to meet the needs that there are undoubtedly in the area of services and support.